gentlemen, 2023 Honda Civic Type-R, FL5 generation. Super excited for this car. It's based on the same platform as the prior generation FK8, which we reviewed up over here in this video. But in terms of styling, it's pretty polarizing. Some people like the more Gundam style of that prior gen, the FK8. Other people prefer the more grown-up, toned down, mature styling of this new FL5. I think if you're older like me, in your 30s and beyond, then you probably like the FL5 more. And if you're younger, you may be more likely to enjoy the FK8. But I'm curious, I have a feeling which way my audience is going to lean. But please let me know with a comment down below, what do you think? Now this wing is always black, no matter what your exterior color is. And since the exterior is black, it seems to match quite nicely. In other colors, it sometimes looks a little bit out of place, according to some people. But this car in person, my God, what a looker. The classic 3 exhaust setup as always. And this example is bone stock, except for Eibach lowering springs, which have a about 10% increase in spring rate over stock and a 0.6-inch drop. And let's see how this bad boy drives. Big shout out to Michael Baxi Media for letting me review his brand new Civic Type-R. Go check out his channel. He makes some awesome content, linked in the description below. Right off the bat, I gotta say that the interior on this new generation Civic, even on the lower trims, is so nice. The steering wheel, this leather feels amazing. I love this honeycomb texture with the air vents, very clean. I can't believe this is a Honda Civic, man. These are, I mean, the Alcantara over here, the build quality, the fit and finish is a huge step up from the prior generation. Seats are also incredibly comfortable. The FK8 was already fantastic, and these FL5 seats are arguably even better. Now we have this in individual mode. This is quite a bumpy road. So we have suspension and comfort. Now that shift sound is not disabled. I don't think you can disable it in this car. Kind of a funny sound if you ask me. But wow, this car is incredibly capable right off the bat. Steering is beautifully weighted, actually, especially for a front-wheel drive vehicle. It's very difficult to get really good steering input. The weighting on this is very appropriate. It's heavier than a Honda S2000. Now there is still torque steer. People talk about how torque steer is eliminated from this generation. I noticed it in the FK8. I noticed it in the FL5. I would say it's a little bit improved in the FL5 over the FK8. But if you are being ham-fisted and being a bit of a gorilla, as I sometimes do with that throttle, then you can definitely get some torque steer. Now this car does rev match and you cannot disable it. But the pedal placement for heel toe is not as ideal as in some other Hondas. In the Honda S2000, you do have better pedal placement. The transmission, in classic Honda fashion, is fantastic, but is it Honda S2000 good? I would say no. There's a little bit more lateral slop. Not as positive on gate entry. And it's not, I mean, still very good, but not as confidence inspiring as some of the best Honda transmissions. This is a pretty bumpy road, and even in comfort, this is getting kind of rough. Yeah, I'm bouncing all around. They did add quite a bit of structural adhesives to this vehicle, which improves the chassis rigidity over the FK8. It's a little bit longer as well. They stretch out the platform by, I believe, about an inch or 2, inch and a half, something like that. Yep, definitely some torque steer there. Ooh, I'm bouncing all around, boys. Pogo sticking. Now, same Turbo 4 as in the prior generation, although they did update the shifter linkages. If I'm being honest, the transmission feel in both this and the prior generation is quite similar. They do have a lighter flywheel, so the automatic rev matching is definitely better in this than in the prior gen, in the FK8. And you can definitely feel the FK8. Again, these are drive-by-wire turbocharged systems, so not as immediate as some other cars. Brake feel is fantastic, very communicative. They spend a lot of time working on the durability and the endurance of this car, the heat management, so that when you're pushing it on track, you're not going to heat soak the engine. It's not going to hold you back. That was more of an issue in the prior gen. They've also made some changes to the suspension to help with camber stability with lateral Gs. So as the suspension loads up, you're able to maintain a better contact patch. That's going to help you maintain better grip. The thing that makes the Honda Civic Type-R so impressive, both the FK8 and the FL5 around the corners, is how early you can get in on throttle. Mid-corner, you stomp your foot down and it hooks up. Even though it's front-wheel drive, even though you're demanding a lot from those front tires, it's able to put the power down and pull you forward in the corner. You can carry a lot of speed. Now, that was already very impressive in the FK8, and due to the suspension changes, I would argue that it's even more impressive in the FL5 by a small degree. You're still able to pick up on that, even though the last one I drove, the FK8, was the limited edition that had the Cup 2 tires, and this one has the PS4Ss, which are less grippy, of course. They're not the semi-slick that the Cup 2s are. But because of the magic of that LSD up front and the changes to the suspension geometry, it's just really impressive what both generations can do with regards to putting the power down. Now, while we were bouncing around, you have to keep in mind that the spring rates were increased by 10% over stock, which is not going to make a massive difference. Even in stock form, you are going to be bouncing around. This is a harsh ride, but keep in mind that it is tuned well. The chassis engineering, the suspension design is tuned in a way that you're not actually losing much of that lateral stability as you're bouncing while turning. The fake engine noise has been disabled by the owner, thankfully, and unfortunately, due to budgetary reasons, they weren't able to develop a more mechanical system to, such as a sound tube, to have noise piped through the cabin. It's not terribly quiet though. Oh my god, this is so bouncy. For a road like this is way too stiff. Not pleasant. It's getting unsettled, it's bouncing here and there, we're pogo sticking a little bit. FL5 over FK8. Marginal improvements. It's the sum of these small little changes, the body adhesive, the improved cooling, the slight changes to the suspension, the L-shaped lower control arms versus the A-shaped. All these things add up to a slightly more refined, a slightly more buttoned down package, and the interior is a huge step up. The seats, I would even say, are a small step up, and they were already so fantastic. But the interior fit and finish is really quite shocking over the last generation, to be frank. Love the red. Great bolstering on these seats. If you want a vehicle that you can daily drive and take to the track, truly serve dual duty, I understand why this is a favorite amongst many. Super practical. As you can see, the owner has his kid seats, his child seats in the back. He does track this. And with the added refinement, I feel like the NVH is noticeably lower in this than the prior generation as well. This makes a lot of sense. Now, you do have to understand the trade-off. This is, and will always be, a front-wheel drive platform. And as a result, you're not getting throttle-induced oversteer. And I think that's a big part of driving enjoyment for a lot of people. But despite that, it is one of the most fun front-wheel drive cars that I have ever driven, hands down. Two more quick things. First, why is this car so special? It's essentially the most capable front-engine, front-wheel drive car on the market today. And a large part of what makes a car fun, especially on canyon roads, is the comfort and the approachability of the limits, of pushing the car hard. With both the FK8 and the FL5, you're able to just hop in, push the car really hard, and you're comfortable going much faster than you would in a lot of other cars. And finally, is this a worthy successor to the FK8 Civic Type-R? So first, keep in mind that Hideki Kakunuma was the chief engineer for both this FL5 Civic Type-R as well as the prior generation FK8. He was also involved in the S2000 chassis development, the Civic Type-R in 2001, NSX Type-R in 2002, and the Integra Type-R. Overall, the FL5 is an evolutionary, iterative change from the FK8. It's not revolutionary. It doesn't really deviate far from the mold. But those small incremental changes, the suspension, the engine, the car's now longer, wider, and lower, they make for a substantial and noticeable improvement, but it's not deviating too much from the mold. The cost is significantly raised. We're now at $45,000 MSRP, and that's before markup. If you're buying this car right now, you are going to be paying markup unless you have some really special connection. And I know most of you have seen the throttle house drag race between the FK8 and the FL5, and it's a bit embarrassing for the newer generation Type-R. Keep in mind, this is the same engine, and they have made some changes to the turbo, and it's now making 9 horsepower more, 15 pound-feet of torque more, up to 315 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. But driving it, it feels the same with regards to acceleration. Even though you have more of that mid-range torque and more power, keep in mind the car is now 100 pounds heavier. We're up to 3,150 pounds, up from 3,050, and you also have a longer final drive. But let me know what you guys think. Would you choose this, the new FL5 generation, or the prior gen, the FK8, if you had the option? Much love, my friends. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in that next one.